Hello guys, this is your friend and we are back with a new fanfic. Which is What If Naruto Marriage with Kurenai Part 2. If you have not seen Part 1, you can watch it on the channel. And if you enjoy this fanfic then please press the like button and subscribe to my channel for more fanfic like this. And now let's start the fanfic. A golden blur whizzed past the trees of High no Kuni. That blur was Naruto, and he was returning from a mission. It was nothing major, just a one-night slaughter mission. The usual. Sometimes Naruto thought about the life of a shinobi, what they endured and what they did. The bottom line was that all shinobi were thugs, just glorified versions. The only difference between shinobi and bandits is that one is able to utilize chakra, while the others can't. He had been given a low-leveled A-rank mission. There were a large group of bandits and ninja residing near the Cha no Kuni border. His mission objectives were simple: complete annihilation and leave nothing behind. The group had over 100 members and were known as the Bombers, ironic really if you think about how most of them died. Naruto decided to make it quick and simple, since he had team training in the morning. Upon arriving at the bandits' site he quickly made a mental map of the entire area that they were in. Once the area had been mapped out, Naruto decided to make them go out with a bang. He created 150 cage buncheons, and let them just waltz into the bandit camp. It was pure gold to see their faces when the first clone exploded, taking 2 men with it. And with that the blitz began. After about 2 minutes of continuous bombing, there was only one left. The leader of the group. Now this man was different because he was a shinobi. A missing nin to be precise, Hiro Kunato high B rank missing nin from Kusagaku. He was quickly dealt with. Upon realizing who Naruto was he begged for mercy, only to find none. Since this was a undercover mission, Naruto had set a light to the whole camp, taking anything of interest. Which was easier said than done, considering Naruto couldn't do fire jutsu. Finally, after 10 minutes of burning, Naruto took off. Thus leaving us to where we are now. Exactly 5 miles away from the gates of Konoha. How does Naruto know this? Well, in fact it's quite simple actually. Okay, maybe not that simple, but it is quite basic. Naruto has full control of the Hiraishin jutsu, which allows him instantly teleport to anywhere he has his special kunai, or the formula seal. Now like most jutsu it has a side effect, and said effect for the Hiraishin is the strain it puts on the body, so to get around that strain Naruto, and he believed his Tusen did the same thing, trained their body to be able to move at insane speeds. Only through this are they able to use the Hiraishin to its maximum potential. However, even with this done there is still a limit of how much one's body can handle. That limit is 5 miles. When going at the speed of light any more than 5 miles and the body starts to rip. Now that doesn't mean that it's impossible to go more than 5 miles, in fact Naruto has gone up to 1,000 miles once, all the way from Kumo. After that little stunt, Naruto's muscles was ripped in several places, torn body tissues and internal bleeding. Was it not for the Kyuubi, Naruto would be dead. He was still working on a way around that. To be able to move around the continent in mere seconds would be the ultimate skill for Naruto. Again, there are several other drawbacks to the technique. Only he could do large distances, if he is ever able to. In normal Hiraishin, close range, he is able to carry someone up to 2 miles, before any side effects occur to the person, due to the need of special speed training. This was the same with Kurenai when he first teleported with her. After months of training on pure speed, 7 months to be exact, Kurenai was able to go the full 5 miles with Hiraishin together with Naruto. Which led Naruto to creating the special seal on his and her ring. The seal contained part of his chakra inside it, which is vital to using the jutsu, as only his chakra could activate the seal. He guessed it was a genetic seal, allowing only blood relatives to use. Finally reaching his destination, Naruto jumped out of the trees in his gold outfit. He was wearing a golden lion mask, the standard Anbu outfit with a golden yellow trench coat with the kanji for Golden Storm, on the back written in black. He was still his normal height of 5.4. In his opinion, this looked way more badass than the normal clothes he wore, which he made a mental note to change soon. Approaching the front gate, he just took a quick look at the two gate guards. It was 4:30 a.m. and they were sleeping, typical. However, these guys were cool, they were nice to him, whilst being idiot Naruto. The two guards were Azumo, who was wearing a bandana which had the Konoha Hitai sewed on. He had brown hair which covered the right side of his face. He was currently resting his head on his hand, whilst snoring, quite loudly. To his right was Katetsu. He had black spiky hair and a bandage going across his face and over his nose. He was currently leaning back on his chair, with a large snot bubble coming out of his nose. Naruto's sweat dropped. He slipped past them with ease. Once out of sight, he created a single kage bunshin to give Hokage his report. He usually did this, as it was in standard mission. Even though a undercover one, he would let a bunshin give the report. He was silently jumping through the rooftops, enjoying the early morning mist that hid most of the village's scenery. He breathed the moist air, slightly tickling the back of his throat. It was one thing he enjoyed about Konoha, along with the warm weather all year round. The mist during the slightly colder mornings of winter gave the area a cool and mystic look. And Naruto loved it. Whilst making his way through the roofs, letting his mind wander, he couldn't help but shiver when remembering Kurenai's friend's little chat with him, the threats they had made. He shivered again. He hoped that the threats would be just that, threats. Not that he could ever do anything to hurt Kurenai on purpose, hell no. He would kill himself 1,000 times before he let any harm come to her, especially if it was from him. Finally, he arrived at his house. It was on the edge of Konoha in a secluded area, nice and private. It was surrounded by a 7 meters wall that had a barrier seal around it, along with several other backups. Walking up to the gate, he placed his blood on the seal, then added chakra, allowing the procedure to take place. The huge metal gates swung open, allowing Naruto to see a small tiled road, with grass fields on both sides. There were rose bushes surrounding the walls, with small flower patches arranged around the grass. Making his way through the road, Naruto looked at his house. It wasn't that huge, 2 stories tall. It was painted a plain white, which only added to its beauty. It was a normal house, except it was significantly bigger. On the inside it was different though. There was a total of 5 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms, with an extra toilet, a dining area that was connected to the living room, which you first enter from the front door. All in all, the house was normal, above ground. Underneath, however, was a completely different story. Underneath was a total of 6 acres of basement. That is, if you could call it a basement. It was mainly divided into 3 parts: a dojo, which was covered in gravity and resistance seals, effectively making it into a training room; a library, which contained every scroll he had obtained from raids and missions, along with his own inheritance of scrolls. Kurenai had spent a lot of time arranging them into a specific system which worked perfectly, even if it was so darn simple. They were divided into the categories they fell under, such as Father's Scrolls, Wind-style Jutsu, C rank. He had learnt quickly not to mess with the system. He paled at the memory. Finally, there was Naruto's proudest part of his home, the jutsu room. In this room was where Naruto practiced his new jutsus or tried to perfect old ones. This room was the biggest out of all of them, covering 4 acres of the underground alone, not including being the one with the highest ceiling, 10 meters high. Low. It was also completely covered in seals, mostly barrier seals that made sure that the walls were not affected, but there was also stabilizer seals, which allowed the room to shake freely but not affect the earth around it. It was a high-class space-time seal, and it took Naruto months to perfect, which made him all the more proud. The seal, when in use, would temporarily allow the room to move through the ground, becoming ghost-like, meaning when a powerful jutsu was used, the room would phase through the ground and walls. Snapping out of his thoughts, Naruto repeated the process at the gate on the door of his home, which was a brilliant mahogany color. Naruto walked up to his room, slowly opening the door hoping not to wake Kurenai. When the door was fully opened he was greeted to the sight of Kurenai sleeping soundlessly underneath the orange duvet cover. She was facing away from the bed and slightly off the side from the center. She looked so peaceful, he'd hate to ruin that. Slowly getting undressed, Naruto got into the bed and kept his back away from Kurenai. Already having taken a bath at a nearby lake after the mission was over, he felt he didn't need one. He was about to drift off to sleep when he felt an arm wrap around his midsection and pull him backwards. His back was instantly met with Kurenai's chest, while she had both arms around his stomach and had her head rested upon his shoulder. "So, when was you going to tell me you were back?" Giving him a kiss on the cheek, she returned her head on his shoulder. Naruto had a soft smile on his face, whilst looking outside the window. "I wasn't. You looked peaceful so I let you sleep," was his reply to her earlier question. Kurenai frowned. No matter how strong he was, she couldn't help but worry about him. Sure, he was the strongest ninja she knew, but he was still 13 years old. No matter how strong or powerful he was, right now he was still only a teenager, and so was she. She sighed. Sometimes she forgot that she too was only a teenager. "I told you to tell me whenever you finish a mission, you know how much I worry," she finished with a frown. Naruto could practically feel the frown on Kurenai's face. He knew she had it. Especially when she was worried, she has the same look. He would never understand the reason she worried so much. He was fully capable of completing any missions thrown his way. But he hated to see his Nai-chan upset. "I'm sorry, but you know how much I hate disturbing you, especially when you looked so beautiful," he finished, and at her, she responded by smiling and giving him a quick peck on the lips. Kurenai then rolled onto her back and brought Naruto's head to her chest, whilst running a hand through his hair. "Well, Naruto, it seems you was able to sweet-talk me again. Honestly, I think I'm getting soft on you." This caused Naruto to smirk. I know, but you can't deny, you love my sweet talk." Naruto smirked and continued, "Judging from the blush on your face, I'm guessing I'm correct." Kurenai's response was to smack him lightly on his forehead. "Baka, behave or you'll be cooking your own ramen from now on." Naruto shot upwards and turned to face her. His finger pointed at her. "You wouldn't dare. You can't den." He would have continued if he didn't realize that Kurenai was wearing a semi-see-through sleeping gown. He crossed his arms and gave a childlike pout, causing her to giggle. "Talking about denial, you've been denying me something else lately." He just looked her up and down. Kurenai just smirked and grabbed him by the shoulders, forcing him down to her face before slamming her lips on his. Training Ground 7. "Yo," was the call from Naruto as he arrived at Training Ground 7. He was feeling energized. "Yay, that's it, energized." Kurenai had made sure of that. He was desperately fighting down the nosebleeds. She was too damn good. He looked over at his teammates. Sasuke was leaning against one of the training posts. In the past 2 weeks they had slightly gotten closer as friends. Sasuke wouldn't openly admit it, but Naruto could tell. They had mainly been working on speed, strength and stamina, or as Kakashi called it, Genius. Kakashi had told them it would be best to work on the basics first. And Naruto couldn't agree more. It was due to this that he had upgraded his seals on his body. Once a 20x gravity seal, was now a 25x gravity. He had trouble adjusting to the extra pressure at first, channeling tons of chakra to his limbs just to move normally. Sasuke had also gotten a lot faster. Also, his chakra control had skyrocketed, but perhaps it was a side effect of the Sharingan. Kakashi had helped Sasuke activate his Sharingan by a less than pleasant way. It was after the first week, Kakashi and Sasuke was having a all-out spar, Kakashi of course holding back. It was during this spar that Kakashi had taunted him, mocking him. telling him how much of a failure he was, saying that Itachi at that age was an Anbu captain, while he was still a genin. The final straw was when Kakashi had said, "What's wrong, Sasuke? You remembering your clan, all of them dying in front of your eyes. How was it? How did it feel? You're as useless now as you was then." Pathetic. Needless to say, Sasuke was furious, unconsciously activating his Sharingan and going on the assault. Kakashi had to knock him out too and him calm down. When he woke up, he just up and left. He didn't come back until 2 days later. That was when Kakashi was able to explain what he had done and why. In the end, Sasuke accepted the explanation but still held a small hatred towards Kakashi. Slowly but steadily they went back to normal. It was obvious that he had hit a nerve, and who could blame him? Naruto didn't know what he would do if he was powerless to save those he loved. It was a fate worse than death, the feeling of worthlessness. Shaking his head, breaking out of his thoughts, he looked over to Sakura. He could definitely say that their relationship had gotten a lot better. After a while of training together and getting used to Naruto not being a loud-mouthed idiot, she had come to accept him a bit more for what he was, a strong and capable shinobi who was the second strongest on their team, after Kakashi-sensei. She had improved drastically during the 2 weeks of training. Mainly in stamina and speed, her strength was still low, mainly because she had been dieting before graduation. She was currently being taught some of the more basic genjutsus and basic analysis medical jutsu to set her off. Since then she had been more interested in the medical field. Medical jutsu and genjutsu not being one of Kakashi's forte, made teaching it difficult for him. However, he did manage to get her some scrolls on the subject which she thanked him for and instantly started reading. Up in the trees was Kakashi. He was just waiting for Naruto to come before making an appearance. Kakashi was extremely proud with his team. In the past 2 weeks not only were they able to improve by a mile, but they had started to get closer as a team, something Kakashi wanted to make sure of. They were coming along nicely together. All 3 of them had shown him that they were serious about being a ninja. Well, almost. Sakura still had some fangirlism in her. But one does not be a fangirl for over 2 years then suddenly stop. She was gradually getting there. Hopefully by the end of the month she would be rid of it. Kakashi still remembered the talk he had with her at the start of the training program. Flashback. Sakura, could you stay behind? There's something I need to talk to you about. Sakura was confused and a bit curious to what he wanted to talk about. But she stayed behind as per asked and waited for her sensei to begin. Kakashi, sensing no one was around, turned to Sakura. He had a very serious look in his eye. His shoulders were no longer slumped, and he looked ready for battle. It made Sakura nervous, never having seen this side of him. He looked at her for a minute, both in complete silence, before talking. Sakura, why did you become a ninja? Sakura blinked. She had never been asked that question before. She could remember why she first wanted to be a ninja. It sounded cool and awesome. She always admired ninjas that she saw on the street or in the roofs. However, after the academy started, she started to learn more about the life of a ninja. It started to sound less and less appealing. She then started to get bullied. With some help from Ino, she overcame those bullies, leading to her and Ino becoming friends. It was then that she decided she wanted to become a ninja to protect herself and be able to fight. Later in the years she came across Sasuke and worked up a crush on him. Since then she was only devoted to making him acknowledge her and gain his love. She breathed in before talking. Well, at the start I wanted to be able to protect myself from any harm that came my way, and protect my home with my family, but now I guess it's to gain Sasuke's affection and love. Kakashi stared at her for a moment, making Sakura uneasy under his gaze. He sighed before talking. Well, I'm sorry to say this, Sakura, but if you don't refine that first reason inside you, then I'll be forced to drop you from the ninja program. This caused Sakura to freeze. Remove me from the ninja program? She mentally asked herself. She could feel the tears rush to her eyes. She let out a small sob. Kakashi-sensei what do you mean? Kakashi let out another sigh. She didn't understand the life of a ninja. Not like the other two. Sasuke understood. Coming from a ninja clan, one as prestigious as the Uchiha clan, knew all about the violence and death that came with being a ninja. The events that occurred with Itachi further showed him the life a ninja must endure. Naruto knew all too much as well. With his childhood and loneliness, the beatings he received, he was definitely aware of what a cruel cold world they were living in. Sakura on the other hand had no idea. She lived a sheltered life. Her mother being on the civilian council gave her a privileged childhood, away from the hardships of life. She never saw family members return home with blood-stained clothes, or wounds on their bodies. She never had have to run and hide for her survival at the age of 4, barely old enough to fend for herself. Nor did she have to put up with the shame of a father which ruined the life of a 5-year-old, newly graduated ninja. He looked at her tearful expression, not really caring. Sure, he didn't enjoy being cold to her, but this had to be done. He would have to open her eyes. What I mean is you need to fix up, stop fawning over Sasuke and focus on your training. I don't care how long you've liked him, or how he's Mr. Perfect, or how cool he is. From now on you either start training properly and show me you want to become a kunoichi, or you get the fuck out of my team. This isn't a game, Sakura. People die. I know countless comrades that have died by my side. Many of them were deadly serious and devoted about being a ninja. I don't want another person to die for some bullshit crush or because eating makes you fatter. Either you start pulling your weight or you go. You have until the end of the training program until I give you my final decision. And with that he disappeared into the trees, leaving Sakura to her thoughts. Flashback end. After that, Sakura had become a lot more focused on her training. He was afraid that she would focus only to begin with, then slowly sink back to her old habits. However, instead of slowing down in progress, she only seemed to be accelerating. Seeing them all here, he decided it was time for him to join them and tell them the new routine. Yo! He paired with a cloud of smoke. Naruto and Sasuke sent a small nod his way, while making their way towards him, whilst Sakura gave a small smile. She had also been a lot more retreated after the talk, in no way lacking confidence but less vocal. Naruto gave his sensei a grins. So sensei, what we going to be doing today? Kakashi responded with his own eye smile. Well, today I was hoping to test some of your elemental affinities, and maybe even teach you some new jutsus. This caused Sasuke to smirk. He always enjoyed training and learning new jutsus. Anything to help him fight against him in the end. Sakura looked at Kakashi with a hopeful look. She enjoyed learning medical ninjutsu, even though she only knew a few diagnostic jutsus. She wanted to be able to help her teammates and comrades in actual battle. Naruto had a faraway look on his face. He was thinking of how to avoid this. He didn't want them to know that he had 4 elements. It could seriously create a lot of unwanted question that he didn't want to answer yet. Kakashi proceeded to bring out 4 pieces of paper. Taking one and putting it in between his hands, he looked at the 3. This is chakra paper and it's made from a special tree that is grown with chakra. So when you channel chakra through the paper, it will react in a certain way, thus tell you your element. Sensei, what do you mean it will tell us our element? Asked a generally confused Sakura. How could paper tell your elemental affinity? Even if it was special paper. Kakashi smiled at her. She was showing curiosity to learn. That was good. Well, you see, it all depends on your affinity. If you have wind type, will split in half. If you have fire, it will go up in flames. If you have water, it will get wet. If you have earth, it will crumble, and for lightning, it will scrunch up and crinkle. As you know, the elements go around in a chain. Metaphorically speaking, wind beats lightning, lightning beats earth, earth beats water, water beats fire, and fire beats wind. Now, just because you have the elemental advantage, it does not mean that your jutsu will automatically win. For example, a wind style master can easily beat an adept in fire style. The three nodded their heads, accepting his explanation. Kakashi smiled under his mask. They were going to be excellent ninja in the future. He then gave Sakura a piece of paper. Okay, now Sakura, I want you to try and focus on drawing out your chakra, just a small amount, then channel it into the paper. Sakura did as instructed, drawing out a small amount of chakra before channeling it through the paper. She let out a gasp when the paper started to crumble in her hands. Kakashi smiled. It seems your affinity is earth, an excellent element when in defense, perfect for a medical ninja. This caused Sakura to give a wide smile. She wanted to become a medic so badly now. It was her dream to become an excellent medical ninja, like Tsunade of the Sannin. She remembered reading books about her legendary skills in the medical field, and the countless lives she had saved during the Second and Third Ninja Wars. Kakashi looked over to Sasuke, who was smirking, not being able to contain his excitement. As soon as Kakashi had given Sasuke the paper, which was almost snatched out of his hands, instantly Sasuke started channeling chakra into the paper, but was shocked when nothing happened. Turning to his sensei, he asked, "Did I do something wrong?" Kakashi had a distant look on his face, obviously thinking about something. Turning back to Sasuke, he said, "When you draw out your chakra, try and split it in two, then channel it through both hands and into the paper." Sasuke blinked, before nodding. He closed his eyes and started to draw out his chakra, splitting it into two. He then channeled it into the paper, causing the paper to crinkle up before combusting in flames. Sasuke looked at Kakashi with a raised eyebrow. Kakashi gave a smile. "This is great. It means you have a dual affinity." This caused Sasuke to give off a arrogant smirk. "It means you've got both lightning and fire affinities, however training to control them will be extremely hard, especially since they both have different ways of mastering them." He spoke the last bit quietly. Oh, he knew how hard it was training in an affinity. Hell, he'd done it for 4 of the elements, 4. And boy was it hard, especially since they had different properties when training them. For example, water-type chakra flowed out of the body, as if it was made of silk. That was the end goal anyway. For those who did not have it mastered, it was more wild and uncontrollable, leaving them with slightly poorer chakra control. Whilst lightning-type chakra was more wild and when unmastered could damage the person's body. When mastered, however, it added to a person's reaction speed. Each chakra affinity had a different property that aided the person when it was being used. Fire-type chakra gave extra resistance against heat and other fire-type moves. Water-type chakra gave better chakra control, which was why it was mainly used for medics. Earth-type chakra gave a strength and defense boost. Lightning-type chakra gave extra speed and reflexes, and wind-type chakra gave better agility and boosted attack power. Kakashi then turned to Naruto and held out the paper for him to take. Naruto just looked at it and then back to Kakashi. "But sensei, I already know my affinities," he said while rubbing the back of his head nervously. He was praying to Kami that they would accept that. Kakashi narrowed his eyes slightly. "Oh. Then what affinity do you have, Naruto?" Naruto froze. He never chose which element he would tell them about. Then it hit him. He couldn't choose. He already showed his Hyoten element, meaning he had to tell them he had water and wind affinities. He also remembered using a earth jutsu. The inside of his head sounded like a drunken sailor party. Naruto returned his attention to Kakashi, still rubbing his head. "Well, you see, I kinda have 3 elemental affinities with a sub-element as well." Kakashi looked at him with wide eyes. Sakura, who was naturally confused, turned to her sensei. "Kakashi-sensei, what's a sub-element?" Kakashi turned his attention to Sakura, with a dead serious face. A sub-element is a mixture between 2 primary elements. They usually are specific to a clan. Question is, turning to Naruto, how did you get one? Naruto was cursing. Of course Sharingan no Kakashi would know about sub-elements. Who was he trying to kid here? He was cursing and cursing. Why did he have to show off? I should have stuck with Fuden and get it over with. Damn you old man, why couldn't you just screw the council and make me a Jonin? But in reality he knew why. It would create too much of a political problem. Just him being trained by the Sandame would never sit well with the council. Not just the civilian council at that, he was sure he could deal with them easily. However, he was pretty sure some of the ninja council and clans hated his guts too. Exactly which clans, he wasn't sure at the moment, but unless he became a clan head and became above the law, in a sense he was screwed if he didn't play nice. Oh, he was sure he could run away, him and Kurenai both. With them both being S-ranked ninja and above, they were sure that any other village would accept them. Especially with Naruto's status as a Jinchuriku and his bloodlines, he was sure that Kumo would welcome him with open arms. But that wasn't the problem. It just wasn't fair. Not to him, but to Kurenai. Sure, she would come with him, he was certain of that. But it didn't seem fair for him to take her leave her home. They hadn't treated her badly, she had lived here her whole life and was raised to love the village. He couldn't do it to her, he couldn't rip her away from any friends and family she had left in Konoha. That was the main decider for him, he would deal with it for her. He didn't care what they tried to do to him or how much they hated him, he would stay and be a ninja of Konoha. For Kurenai and for his Nei-chan. His parents, that was a sore spot for Naruto when he was younger. He remembered when he was first told. He was absolutely destroyed, it took him weeks on end to try and come to terms with his father doing what he did. He remembered for a whole year he hated the man, no, he resented him. He couldn't believe what his own father had done to him, it was just unreal at the time. But as he grew older, so did his feelings for Kurenai, and at one point he swore that he would do anything to protect her. It was at that point that Naruto had realized what his father had done. He had used his last breath of life to protect the village and people he loved. For a while Naruto thought it was ironic, how the villagers treated their hero's son with such hate. After a while he managed to forgive his father, wishing him some sort of peace in the afterlife. Which he knew would never come due to the deal he made with the Shijinami, but he hoped he could find some sort of peace. He also remembered thinking about his mother, now she was a small enigma to him. Sure, she was dead, but the date of her death was 2 weeks after the sealing. Now at first he thought that she may have survived the initial attack and died later due to her wounds, but after searching through the hospital files and finding hers, he found out that she was never submitted into the hospital after the attack. At first he thought maybe they never put it down on paper since there was sure to have been hundreds of casualties at the time and services might have gotten sloppy. However, he began questioning again when it never stated her means of death, it just said, deceased. And that was what got him thinking. He checked through all the people's files who had died during the same period after the Fox attack and it had stated their means of death and exact time. When he had brought it up with the Sandame, he had gotten nervous and tried change the subject. It had made Naruto feel betrayed that the man he had trusted the most in his life would lie to him. He still wonders what actually happened to his mother. Kakashi on the other hand was deep in thought, a bloodline I wonder who you actually are, Naruto Uzumaki. Truth be told, Kakashi only knew of one other who had a sub-element, and that was his late sensei, Minato Namikaze. Along with his famous Hiraishin and Rasengan that made him the Konoha no Kiroi Senko, he was once known as Kami no Arashi, god of the storms, for his godlike abilities over his Rantan, and in truth his Rantan was one of the reasons he got the name Namikaze, which was only given to him after he had became a genin. Kakashi still remembers his sensei telling him that particular story, but every other sub-elemental user he has met has belonged to a clan. However rare they were, it wasn't impossible. He remembered Minato telling him that if one has a high enough affinity for 2 chakra natures then they could possibly create a sub-element. However, the difference between self-created sub-elements and bloodline created is that they don't pass on to the children. Kakashi looked at Naruto, who seemed to be in a world of his own. He waved his hand in front of his face waiting for a reaction, nothing. It was like he wasn't there at all. Slap. Naruto steps back and shakes his head, he needed that. Still, it didn't stop him from giving Kakashi a hard glare, which was shrugged off. Now Naruto, if you would be so kind and tell us what elements you have, and how you have a sub-element. Naruto regains his composure and loosens his glare. Hi, I have an affinity for wind, water and earth with a sub-element for ice. Kakashi nods his head. As for how I got ice, all three lean in closer. I don't know. Q face falls. Once regaining his composure, Kakashi was thinking hard. He had no idea what he could teach Naruto. He was sure that Naruto, if left alone, would be fine. Hell, he'd be more than fine, but he felt as a sensei he needed to at least help in some way. Sakura was in awe. He had 4 elements. That was so cool. He still wasn't as cool as Sasuke. Sasuke, on the other hand, was red with rage. Naruto had one-upped him again. He needed to train stronger. He will catch up to Naruto first, then he'd go and kill him. Kakashi sighed when he realized that there was nothing he could teach Naruto. He was stuck. He was sure that Naruto was almost perfect in all of the basic ninja arts. Naruto was fast, almost as fast as him. He as sure as hell was strong. As far as he could tell, from the exam and what other jutsu Naruto showed during training, Naruto had a good arsenal of jutsu. The only thing he could teach him would be genjutsu, which was a no-go since he was married to the best genjutsu user in the village. He honestly had nothing to teach him. The only thing he could actually do with Naruto was train, plain and simple. He would be able to train the two of them, him and Naruto, and increase their physical training. He knew that the title of him being the third strongest in the village was a bit outdated. After over 6 months of not training almost at all, he had become lazy. He realized that after getting his ass handed to him by Naruto 6 months before, there was no way he would have lost that easily. But it had happened and he had learned from his mistake. Kami knows what would have happened if he continued like that, only to face a high-level missing nin. Breaking out of his stupor, Kakashi turns to his genin team. Okay, my cute little genins. Q glares. Today we will continue as normal. Tomorrow we'll get started on the new regime. And with that they got started. Konoha streets. Naruto had just finished training with Kakashi. It was a long day. Kakashi had decided, since today was the last day of pure cycle training, that today they should train the hardest. They had started with 100 laps around the training ground. Needless to be said, you could see the smile on Kakashi's face when Sakura had managed to do 51 laps. Sasuke managed to complete 76 before passing out, and Naruto, as usual, had completed the whole 100 with relative ease. He had then gone and tested their strength and chakra control. Naruto coming last on that test, much to his ire. With Sakura coming on top with Sasuke not far behind. After that they had gone into sparring, which lasted of all 10 minutes before Sakura was defeated by Sasuke, who in turn went into a 20-minute sparring match with Naruto. Needless to say, they were all knackered and worn out. Which is where we join our knucklehead in disguise, on his way to Ichiraku's. Naruto sighed. He was honestly cursing this whole genin thing. This was way below his level and the old man knew it. However, the worst thing was that he wasn't even placed on Kurenai's team. Oh, how he had prayed to the old man to place him in her team, stating that together they would be a perfect team and be able to protect the genin on the team better. The old man had shot down the idea, stating that it would be uneven to change the teams if he would split them apart. Each genin team was specialized from the start. Just thinking about the teams, he could easily tell what they were created to do. Team 10, with the Inoshika Cho trio, was an information gathering cell. With the way that their clan jutsus worked in perfect sync, it was like they were created for one another. Team 8 was a tracking and retrieval team, with the Byakugan as the eyes, the Inazunka senses and Akamaru as the nose, and with Shino and his Kikaichu bugs made up the body, along with Kurenai to add extra defense and cover. They were a perfect team for tracking. Finally, his team, Team 7, was an assault team, With Sasuke and his Sharingan and him as the QB Jinchuriku, they already had a deadly combo. Also with Sakura as a possible medic, they were a perfect team for assault and assassination missions. Reluctantly, Naruto had agreed with the old man to keep the teams like they are, in exchange that they would still be able to go on joint missions together. Him and Kurenai without a doubt made a deadly combo, with Kurenai covering his worst aspect of the ninja arts, genjutsu. It made them almost unstoppable, not that anyone who had gone against them had ever survived. It made Naruto's heart warm when he thought about Kurenai. Honestly, he had no idea what he would have been like without her. Another Itachi maybe. Just the thought of him being like Itachi made him shiver. Honestly, Naruto had never been on a mission with Itachi. But from what he had heard, the man was almost robotic. He wouldn't be surprised if he didn't even blink. Looking up, he noticed some of the glares he was receiving from the people of Konoha. It made his heart sink slightly. The people he protected every day and had done so much for, still hated him. Arriving at his destination, he made his way in. Instantly he frowned when people started to get up and try to make their way out, obviously not having paid. It made his anger soar. All it took was him to enter the stand and the whole place would be empty out. It was one of the reasons why he ordered so much ramen whenever he came. That and it was so damn good. However, today he wasn't having them disrespect the Ichirakus anymore, especially Ayame. She was the closest thing he could call family, like his big sister. He still remembered all those times he would spend talking to her and they would laugh and joke and go out together. She would occasionally take him to the park and take him shopping sometimes. Ever since the age of 4 he had been coming here. He still remembered that fateful day. Flashback. A small child was running through the main road of Konoha. He was running as fast as his little legs could carry him. He couldn't stand it. He'd been living on the streets for a whole month now. It was so cold during the nights, so he had taken shelter in one of the training grounds where he had found an old fox den. He had been stealing bread and other food from anywhere he could find some, sometimes even digging into garbage cans. The memories almost made him puke. He hated his life, and apparently his life hated him too. He could still see the looks on their faces as he passed by. Demon, freak, ugly, hideous, monster. It only took a few of those words to break his spirit, thus he did the only thing he could. He ran. He ran as fast as he could, not daring to look back. He closed his eyes for a second when turning the corner when slam. He fell back while clutching his head in pain. He had hit something, or someone. But his head hurt so much he couldn't see what he had hit. Slowly opening his eyes, he saw another kid, who was years older than him. She had long brown hair and a round heart-shaped face. She was wearing a white long-sleeved t-shirt and black long pants, with black sandals. She was currently shaking her head with her eyes shut tight. There was a brown box next to her. Naruto was pancaking. He had hurt someone. He had actually hurt someone. If anyone saw this would seriously beat him. He had never ever hit someone before, either on purpose or as an accident. Either way, he knew the consequences for him would be far worse than any other child. Quickly getting up, he rushed to the girl and began to panic. "Oh Cammy, I'm so sorry. It was an accident. Sorry. Ill help please. Oh God, I'm sorry." The girl on the floor looked up to see a young boy, who looked to be no older than 4, looking at her with a worried expression on his face. No, he didn't look worried, he looked terrified. Just looking at his clothes, he looked filthy. He was wearing a brown shirt with brown shorts. Reaching a hand out to his cheek to where she saw 3 whisker-like marks, she stroked his face, hoping to calm him down a bit. When Naruto saw her hand reach out towards his face, he naturally flinched. However, he stayed put and awaited his punishment with closed eyes, which was scrunched tightly together. Which further confused the girl. He was a little kid who was like 4, 5 years old, and he was scared of her. Why would he be scared? When she touched his whiskers, she was surprised to find out that they were real. He had whiskers. Instantly she started to caress his face, feeling them. Slowly she brought up her other hand and felt his other cheek. They were real. She couldn't believe it, he had whiskers. Personally she thought they were really cute. Naruto was expecting a slap, a punch, hell even a scratch. What he wasn't expecting was for her to stroke his cheeks. Strangely it felt good. Soon he was melting in her hands and let out a long, poor rrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrr looking at the ground for some kind of advice. Sadly, none came. Ayame blinked. Did he just? Oh my god. He did. He just purred. In less than a second, she instantly flashed in front of him, bringing his head into her chest, all the while screaming, "Kawaii." He was just so cute. It was unbelievable. She was rubbing his cheek into her small chest while stroking his other cheek. He was just so cute. She couldn't help it. She had to show him to her dad. Naruto, on the other hand, was frozen in place. She was hugging him. He had never been hugged before, never. It felt nice. Slowly he brought his hands around her waist, and once he felt she wasn't moving anywhere, he clamped down on her. She was a full head taller than him. Unconsciously his eyes started to water while gripping onto her for dear life. He felt warm inside. Was this how some of the other kids felt? He felt warm and fuzzy. Feeling something wet on her chest, Ayame looked down at the small boy who was crying. Why was he crying? She was just hugging him. Then she noticed his hands moving up to her waist, making her straighten up slightly, wondering what he was doing. When he clamped them around her, she slumped back and started to rub his back slightly. Hey, it's all right. No one's hurt. No harm done. This caused the small boy to look up at her. When he saw her smiling at him, he just returned back to crying, this time twice as hard. Ayame frowned. Hey, it's all right. Are you lost? He shook his head. What's wrong then? The small boy looked up at her and managed to choke out, "Thank you." Ayame was a small girl, only age 10, but he was thanking her. For what? She didn't do anything big, did she? All she did was give him a hug. What? Why are you thanking me? I didn't do anything. This caused him to violently shake his head. No. His response slightly startled her. It was the complete opposite to the voice she heard before. It was more confident and slightly demanding, all the while still keeping an innocence about it. You did do something. You didn't hit me. What? What do you mean I didn't hit you? Of course I didn't. It was an accident. They happen. The small kid looked up at her, still holding on to her tightly. No. Not when I do it. They always hit me for no reason. I thought you would too. Ayame blinked before bringing him into a big hug. Someone was hitting him. How could they do such a thing? He looked so adorable and innocent. How could they? Looking back down at the kid, she started blushing, realizing he was still hugging her. Could you get off me, please? Instantly Naruto jumped back, slightly missing the feeling from the hug. While looking at the floor, GG Gomen. This caused Ayame to giggle. He really was cute. What's your name? Naruto looked up and gave a huge grin that warmed Ayame's heart. Naruto. My name is Naruto Uzumaki. Ayame walked up to him and held out her hand. Ayame Ichiraku. Naruto looked at the hand for a few moments before grinning and shaking it. He had just made his first friend. Flashback end. After the encounter, she had taken him to Ichiraku's and gave him some ramen. Needless to say, he had happily accepted it and started eating. He still remembered the small frown on Tuki's face when Ayame had brought him in. After a while, the frown had disappeared and was replaced with a soft smile. After then, Ayame had become something akin to a sister towards him, and was violently protective over him. She had become his big sister, and he loved her. Stopping the three guys from exiting by barricading the way with cage buncheons. He gave all three of them a hard glare, which they sneered at. I think you're forgetting something, he said to them calmly, while maintaining the glare. They growled at him. obviously pissed off by the fact that he was blocking their path. From what he could tell by their clothes, they were ninja. Guessing by their jackets they were chunins, which made it all the worse. The fact that the very people who were meant to protect the village were abusing their powers made him mad. One of them spoke up, "Move out of the way. Boy." This caused Naruto to sigh, they would have to learn the hard way. He looked up at Ayame, who looked like she was pleading him to drop it. He could see the concern on her face, which was understandable since she didn't know how strong he was. Not being able to live with herself if Naruto got hurt because of her, she shouted, "Naruto. It's okay. It doesn't matter, just drop it." The same man who spoke first spoke again, this time full of arrogance. "Listen to the demon whore's advice, boy, it might just save your life." That served to piss Naruto off. No, he was furious. He didn't mind being called a demon, evil, ugly, whatever they had thought of in their heads. But, once they insult someone he finds close to him. Game over. Naruto looked at Ayame, "Please, turn around. I don't want you to see this." Reluctantly she turned around. The three chunins looked irritated. This brat had kept them waiting long enough. Before any of them could even make a move, they saw red and then black. Naruto sighed before nodding to his clones, who just disappeared in a swirl of leaves. "It's okay, Ayame, nay, you can turn back." Instantly she turned around and saw that they were gone. She looked up at Naruto, who looked as if there wasn't a scratch on his body. Almost as if she could teleport, she was in front of Naruto and wrapped her arms around him. "You dummy, you don't have to do that for me. I don't care if they pay or not, as long as they leave you alone." Naruto gave her a reassuring hug. "It's okay, Ayame, nay, they needed to be taught a lesson anyway." He drifted off with a smirk. Ayame just gave him one last squeeze before returning around the counter. With a huge vibrant smile she asked him, "Su Ototo, the usual?" Naruto just nodded whilst making his way to his seat. "Actually just the one today, Nei-chan." Ayame frowned slightly, she was hoping he would have stayed a while longer. The two of them were close as any brother and sister could be. The fact that they weren't actually related didn't stop that, in fact it almost made their relationship stronger. Ayame was one person Naruto could actually trust with his life. She wasn't a ninja, but her protectiveness over him went to insane lengths. Especially when he first dated Kurenai, she was the only person he ever told during that time. She had been so overprotective over him, asking Kurenai a million questions a minute. It made his heart warm when he saw how much she cared for him. He had often asked her what she enjoyed doing and what she wished to do in the future. She had told him that she had wished to travel the world and learn new cooking techniques and dishes from around the world. The only problem was that it cost thousands of ryo, something the Ichirakus didn't have. So he, along with Kurenai, who had gotten extremely close to her as well, had decided to help her achieve her dream. One Naruto-sized bowl of miso ramen, with extra chicken, for my Ototo. She placed his bowl in front of him before coming around and sitting next to him. "So Nei-chan, what did you do today?" he asked while opening his chopsticks, muttering a quick, "Itadakimasu," and started eating. Ayame with a sigh, plopped her head on the counter. "Honestly, Naruto, nothing. It's been such a long boring day. Nothing to do these days, and with Tucson off sick I am stuck here," she replied, a small frown on her face. "That's why I'm glad you're here." Her frown was replaced by a brilliant vibrant smile. Only to see Naruto had already finished his bowl. That hit the spot. I am sorry Oni, I've got to go." With that he just placed his money on the counter along with a white envelope and left. Ayame was red with anger. That little brat. After she was dropping hints for him to stay and keep he company, he goes and does this. Next time she sees him. Her thoughts died in her head when she saw the envelope he left. On it read, "To Ayame ne." Curious, she opened it up. Inside there was a small note. To Ayame nay. I know it's your dream to travel the world. So now is your chance. Inside it a check worth 1 million ryo. From the bottom of my heart. I love you Oni-chan. Love Naruto and Kurenai. Ayame did the one thing anyone would do in this situation. She fainted.